When Rachel Morrison walked into a Taylor Swift concert, wearing a shirt that said "My hero couldn't be here," she was just trying to make the best of a heartbreaking situation. What happened when Taylor noticed her in the crowd, and what she did for this military family afterward, left 70,000 people in tears and changed their lives forever. It was June 15, 2023, at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. The Eras Tour was in full swing, and 70,000 fans were singing along to every word. But in section 114, a young woman sat holding a 4-month-old baby, both of them wearing shirts that would catch Taylor Swift's attention and lead to one of the most emotional moments in concert history. David Morrison was 28 years old when he received his deployment orders in December 2022. A sergeant in the U.S. Army, he was being sent to Afghanistan for a 12-month tour. His wife Rachel was 4 months pregnant with their first child. The night before David left, he made Rachel a promise. "I'll be there when the baby comes," he said, holding her close. "I don't know how, but I'll find a way. I won't miss it." Rachel wanted to believe him, but she'd been a military wife long enough to know that promises and reality don't always align when you're serving overseas. "Just come home safe," she told him. "That's all that matters." But it wasn't all that mattered. David wanted to be there for the birth of his first child. He wanted to hold Rachel's hand during labor. He wanted to be the first person to hold their baby. He wanted to cut the umbilical cord and count tiny fingers and toes. Instead, on February 3, 2023, at 3:47 a.m., David Morrison watched his daughter being born on a grainy video call from a military base 7,000 miles away. Rachel's labor had started suddenly, 3 weeks early. Her mother drove her to the hospital, and Rachel immediately video called David, praying the connection would hold. David had been asleep. It was early afternoon in Afghanistan, but he answered immediately when he saw Rachel's name. "It's happening," Rachel said, her voice tight with pain and fear. "The baby's coming." For the next 6 hours, David watched on a small screen as his wife went through labor without him. He saw her pain and couldn't hold her hand. He heard her cries and couldn't comfort her. He watched nurses and doctors move around her while he sat helpless in a dusty military tent on the other side of the world. When Emma Grace Morrison finally arrived, tiny and perfect and screaming, David saw her for the first time through a phone screen. Rachel held the baby up to the camera, tears streaming down her face. "David, meet your daughter." David broke down crying right there in the tent, not caring who saw him. His daughter had been born, and he hadn't been there. He'd missed the most important moment of his life. "She's perfect," he managed to say. "She's so perfect, Rachel. I'm so sorry I'm not there." "I know," Rachel whispered, exhausted and emotional. "I know you would be if you could, but knowing didn't make it hurt less, for either of them." The months that followed were the hardest of Rachel's life. She was caring for a newborn alone, well, not completely alone. Her mother helped, and David's parents visited when they could. But the person she needed most was on another continent, living in danger, unable to come home. Rachel had always been a Taylor Swift fan. During her pregnancy, she'd played Taylor's albums constantly, singing along while she folded baby clothes and assembled the crib. She'd played Never Grow Up and cried, imagining the day when Emma would be too big to hold. After Emma was born, those late-night feeding sessions were filled with Taylor's music. Rachel would rock Emma and sing softly, tears often mixing with the lyrics. "I just want your daddy home," she'd whisper to Emma. "He loves you so much, he'd give anything to hold you." In May 2023, when Eras Tour tickets went on sale for Indianapolis, Rachel made an impulsive decision. She bought 2 tickets, one for herself and technically one for Emma, though at 4 months old, Emma would be sitting on her lap the whole time. When she told David, he was supportive but sad. "I wish I could be there for her first concert," he said over their weekly video call. "Take lots of pictures for me." "Of course," Rachel promised. And it's being live-streamed, so maybe you can watch part of it. I'll try. Time zones are tricky, but I'll do my best. Three days before the concert, Rachel received a care package from David. Inside was a tiny T-shirt he'd ordered online and had shipped to Afghanistan so he could write a message on it himself in permanent marker. The shirt read, "Daddy's watching from Afghanistan." Rachel held the tiny shirt and cried. Then she got an idea. She ordered her own custom shirt. "My hero couldn't be here. Deployed soldier's wife." If David couldn't be at the concert, at least his presence would be acknowledged. On June 15th, Rachel dressed Emma in the shirt David had sent, along with tiny jeans and impossibly small sneakers. She took a dozen photos, sending them all to David with the message, "Emma's ready for her first concert. We love you." The drive to Indianapolis was emotional. Rachel kept glancing in the rearview mirror at Emma in her car seat, peacefully unaware of the significance of the evening. "Your daddy should be here," Rachel said softly. "He wanted to be here so badly. But he's keeping us safe, baby girl. He's a hero." At the stadium, Rachel noticed people looking at her shirt. Some nodded respectfully. A few thanked her for her husband's service. One older man, a veteran himself, saluted her. By the time she got to her seat in Section 114, Rachel was fighting back tears. The moment Taylor noticed. The concert was spectacular. Taylor opened with Miss Americana and the Heartbreak Prince, and the crowd went absolutely wild. Emma, protected by infant ear protection, seemed fascinated by the lights and movement, though she fussed occasionally. During the second set, as Taylor was performing The Man, she walked across the stage, scanning the crowd the way she often did, making eye contact with fans, pointing, smiling, sharing moments. That's when her eyes landed on Rachel's shirt. "My hero couldn't be here. Deployed." Taylor stopped moving. She kept singing, but her attention was clearly divided. She looked at Rachel, then at the baby in her arms, then at the tiny shirt that read, "Daddy's watching from Afghanistan." Taylor gestured to someone off stage, probably security or her tour manager, and pointed toward Rachel's section. When the song ended, instead of moving immediately into the next one, Taylor walked to center stage and held up her hand. "Hold on, everyone. I need to stop for a second, because I just saw something really important." The stadium, which had been roaring with applause, began to quiet down. "Everything stops." "There's a woman in Section 114, Taylor said, her voice carrying across the massive space, wearing a shirt that says her hero couldn't be here, and she's holding a baby, a tiny baby, wearing a shirt that says, 'Daddy's watching from Afghanistan.'" The crowd responded immediately with applause and cheers, but Taylor held up her hand again, asking for quiet. "Ma'am, can you stand up, please?" Rachel's heart was pounding. She stood slowly, Emma in her arms, suddenly aware that 70,000 people and millions more watching the live stream were looking at her. "What's your name?" Taylor called out. "Rachel," she shouted back, her voice shaking. "Rachel, and what's your baby's name?" "Emma. She's 4 months old. And where is Emma's daddy right now?" Rachel's voice cracked as she answered, "Afghanistan. He's a sergeant. He missed her birth. This is her first concert, and he should be here." Taylor stood silent for a moment, visibly emotional. Then she made a decision. "Rachel, I need you and Emma to come up here. Security, can you help them to the stage?" The crowd erupted. Rachel stood frozen in shock until the people around her began encouraging her to go. Security appeared at her row, and suddenly Rachel was being escorted through the crowd, down to the floor and up the stairs to the stage where Taylor Swift was waiting. When Rachel stepped onto the stage, the enormity of the moment hit her. 70,000 people were watching, cameras were capturing every second, and Taylor Swift was walking toward her with tears already in her eyes. "Hi," Taylor said softly, reaching out to touch Rachel's arm. "Thank you for coming up here. Can I ask you some questions?" Rachel nodded, unable to speak. "What's your husband's name?" "David. Sergeant David Morrison." Taylor repeated the name, then turned to address the entire stadium and everyone watching online. "David Morrison, I know you're watching this right now. I know you're 7,000 miles away, probably in the middle of the night there, watching your wife and your baby at a concert you couldn't attend. This moment is for you." The stadium roared its approval. Taylor looked at Emma, sleeping peacefully despite the noise. "All right, you. She's beautiful. How old did you say?" 4 months. David saw her being born over video call. He's never held her. Taylor's face crumbled. "He's never held her?" Rachel shook her head, tears flowing freely now. "He's been deployed since before she was born. He won't be home for another 5 months. "Can I hold her?" Taylor asked quietly. "Would that be okay?" Rachel carefully transferred Emma to Taylor's arms. The baby stirred slightly but didn't wake. Taylor cradled her gently, looking down at her with such tenderness that several cameramen were visibly crying. "There's a song I want to sing," Taylor said, still holding Emma. "It's called Never Grow Up. It's about babies growing up too fast, and about all the moments we wish we could freeze in time. Rachel, this is for you. And David, wherever you're watching from, this is for you too." Taylor sat down on the edge of the stage, Emma still in her arms. A stagehand brought her an acoustic guitar, and there, in front of 70,000 people, Taylor Swift sang Never Grow Up to a baby whose father was serving overseas. "Your little hands wrapped around my finger, and it's so quiet in the world tonight." Rachel stood nearby, sobbing. The audience was silent except for the sound of thousands of people crying. This wasn't a concert moment anymore. This was something sacred. When Taylor sang the line, "Don't you ever grow up, just stay this little," she looked directly at one of the cameras that she knew was live streaming, as if speaking directly to David. The song ended. Taylor held Emma for one more moment, then carefully handed her back to Rachel. "Thank you for sharing her with me," Taylor whispered. "And thank you for what your family sacrifices for this country." But Taylor wasn't done. "Rachel, I have something else to show you," Taylor said. "Can we roll the video?" The massive screens flanking the stage lit up with a pre-recorded video. David appeared, in his military uniform, standing in what was clearly a military base. Rachel gasped. In the video, David spoke directly to the camera. "Rachel, Emma, I love you both so much. Every single day I'm away from you is harder than the last. Rachel, you are the strongest person I know, and you're an incredible mother. Emma, I can't wait to hold you. I can't wait to see you smile at me. I can't wait to be your dad in person, not just on a screen. Taylor, if you're seeing this, thank you for giving my girls this moment. Thank you for seeing them." The video ended. Rachel was openly weeping. Taylor hugged her close. "Rachel, I made some phone calls," Taylor said. "I spoke with David's commanding officer. David is coming home early. He'll be back in the States in 1 week." Rachel's knees buckled. Taylor caught her, holding both her and Emma. "What? How? That's not possible." "It's possible," Taylor said firmly. "They approved early leave. David will be home next Friday." The stadium exploded with applause. People were standing, crying, cheering, celebrating this family's reunion. Taylor held up her hand, asking for quiet one more time. "And there's something else. When David gets home, I want you three to have time together as a family, real time, without worrying about bills or stress or anything else. So I'm giving you a week-long vacation, all expenses paid, wherever you want to go, beach, mountains, anywhere. Just be together." She paused, then added, "And I'm also setting up a fund to help with Emma's first-year expenses. Babies are expensive, and military families sacrifice enough. You shouldn't have to worry about diapers and formula and doctor visits." Rachel couldn't speak. She just held Emma and cried while Taylor hugged them both. As security helped Rachel off the stage, the entire stadium gave her a standing ovation. Taylor watched them go, wiping tears from her own eyes before returning to the concert. 7,000 miles away. In Afghanistan, at a military base, David Morrison had watched the entire thing happen on a laptop, with a dozen other soldiers gathered around him. When Taylor said his name to the stadium, the men around him had erupted in cheers, slapping his back and shoulders. When Taylor held Emma and sang "Never Grow Up," David had pressed his hand to the screen as if he could somehow touch his daughter through it. When the announcement came that he was going home early, David had broken down completely. His commanding officer, who had coordinated the whole thing with Taylor's team, put his hand on David's shoulder. "Go home to your girls, Morrison. You've earned it." 7 days later, Indianapolis Airport was crowded with families, travelers, and though Rachel didn't know it, a few cameras from local news stations who'd heard about the story. Rachel stood near baggage claim, Emma in her arms, watching the arrivals gate. Every few seconds she bounced nervously, unable to stand still. Then she saw him, David in his uniform, duffel bag over his shoulder, scanning the crowd. Their eyes met. Rachel ran toward him, Emma held carefully in her arms. David dropped his bag and caught them both, wrapping his arms around his family for the first time as a father. "Hi, baby girl," he whispered to Emma, his voice breaking. "Hi, sweet Emma. Daddy's here. Daddy's finally here." Emma, now awake, looked at this strange man holding her, a man whose voice she'd heard over speakers but whose face she'd only seen on screens. For a moment David feared she'd cry. Instead, Emma reached up and grabbed his nose. David laughed through his tears. Rachel sobbed into his shoulder, and a few people nearby applauded quietly, giving the family their moment. Taylor Swift's gift to the Morrison family was more than a vacation. Though the week they spent in Hawaii was the happiest of their lives, it was more than the financial support, though the $25,000 she provided helped tremendously with Emma's first year. The real gift was what came after. David's commanding officer, inspired by Taylor's actions and the attention the story received, implemented a new program allowing deployed soldiers with newborns to take emergency leave within the first 6 months of birth. In the first year alone, 847 soldiers were able to meet their babies because of this policy change. Taylor Swift established the Military Family Fund, a foundation providing support to military families dealing with deployment separations. The fund helps with childcare, emergency expenses, counseling, and reunion coordination. To date, the fund has helped over 5,000 military families. Emma Morrison is now 2 years old. She doesn't remember the concert, of course, but Rachel has shown her the videos countless times. "That's when Auntie Taylor held you," Rachel tells her. "That's when she helped bring Daddy home." David never deployed again. He requested and received a transfer to a stationary position, ensuring he'd be home every night for dinner, every morning for breakfast, every moment of Emma's childhood that he'd almost missed. Every year on Emma's birthday, a card arrives in the mail. Inside, in Taylor's distinctive handwriting, "Happy birthday, Emma. You're growing up so fast. Love, Auntie Taylor." And every year on June 15th, the anniversary of that concert, Rachel posts the same video clip, Taylor holding baby Emma, singing "Never Grow Up," with a caption that never changes. A year ago, a superstar reminded us that the smallest moments are sometimes the biggest. Thank you, Taylor, for seeing us, for caring, and for bringing our family home. The video has been viewed over 150 million times, because sometimes stopping a concert for one military family can remind millions of people what really matters, and sometimes the person with the biggest spotlight uses it to shine light on the heroes who usually stand in the shadows. David Morrison served his country with honor, but on one summer night in Indianapolis, Taylor Swift served his family with love, and that made all the difference.